The stars looked different from the medical bay windows of the unsanctuary. Dr. Jake Morrison had been staring at them for the past 10 minutes, watching distant suns twinkle like tiny diamonds against the black space. Behind him, the soft beeping of medical machines mixed with quiet voices of his team, preparing for another day of saving lives. Jake turned away from the window and walked through the main medical deck. The sanctuary was huge, bigger than most space stations. It had to be. The ship carried over 2,000 doctors, nurses, and medical staff from Earth. Every corridor had the clean white walls and bright lights that made patients feel safe. The smell of antiseptic filled the air, but it was a good smell. It meant they were ready to help anyone who needed them. "Dr. Morrison, we have the morning reports ready," said Nurse Katie Brooks as she approached with a tablet in her hands. Katie was small but tough, with short brown hair and quick hands that could start an IV line faster than anyone Jake had ever seen. She had joined the sanctuary 2 years ago and quickly became the best emergency nurse on the ship. "What do we have today, Katie?" Jake asked, taking the tablet and scrolling through the patient list. Even in space, there were always people who needed help. Space miners with broken bones, traders with radiation sickness, colonists with strange alien diseases they picked up on new worlds. 37 patients in the main ward, Katie said. Most are recovering well. The Centauri miner with the crushed ribs is ready to go home tomorrow. The family from the cargo ship is doing better too. Their little girl finally stopped crying when she saw her parents were okay. Jake smiled. That was why he loved this job. Not just the medicine, but seeing families stay together. Seeing people get better and go back to their lives. Earth's medical ships had been doing this work for 20 years now, ever since humanity joined the Galactic Medical Alliance. They traveled to every corner of known space, helping anyone who needed them. The bridge communicator crackled to life. "All senior staff to the bridge. We have a priority message from Galactic Command." Jake and Katie looked at each other. Priority. Messages usually meant someone needed help fast. They walked quickly through the corridors to the main elevator. Other senior staff were already heading the same way. Dr. Alex Carter, their best trauma surgeon, was fixing his coffee and looking worried. Commander Lisa Grant, the ship's captain, was probably already on the bridge. The elevator took them up through the ship's levels. Jake always liked this ride. Through the clear walls, he could see different parts of the sanctuary. The research labs where they developed new medicines. The training rooms where young doctors learned to treat alien species. The quarters where off-duty staff relaxed and talked about home. The bridge doors opened with a soft hiss. Commander Grant stood at the center, looking at a large display screen. She was tall and strong, with gray hair pulled back in a neat bun. Before becoming a ship captain, Lisa had been a combat medic in the Earth Defense Force. She understood both medicine and the dangers of space. "What's the situation, Commander?" Jake asked as he joined the group of senior officers. Lisa pointed to the screen, which showed a star map with a red blinking dot. "Distress call from the Kepler system. The Zephyrian colonies are reporting a plague outbreak. Initial reports say it's spreading fast and their doctors don't know how to stop it." Dr. Carter set down his coffee and moved closer to the screen. "Zephyrians? Their biology is completely different from humans. This could be tricky. That's why they called us," Lisa said. "Earth medical ships are the only ones with the equipment and knowledge to handle cross-species diseases. But there's a problem." She pressed a button and the map changed. Red triangles appeared around the Kepler system. Skarn Empire raiders have been active in that sector. 3 merchant ships attacked in the past week. Galactic Command is advising all civilian vessels to avoid the area. The room went quiet. Everyone knew about the Skarn Empire. They were a warrior species that had been fighting with the Terran Federation for 5 years. Their ships were fast and their weapons were powerful. But they had always respected medical neutrality. No one had ever attacked a hospital ship. Lieutenant Ryan Bell, the ship's security chief, spoke up. Commander, we could request a military escort. The Defense Force has patrol ships in the next sector. Lisa shook her head. That would take 3 days to arrange. The plague reports say people are dying by the hundreds every hour. If we wait, thousands more will die. Jake stepped forward. Then we go now. That's what we do. We help people who need help. Doctor, I appreciate your dedication, but I have to think about the safety of this crew, Lisa said. 2,000 people work on this ship. I can't risk their lives. With respect, Commander, every person on this ship knew the risks when they signed up, Jake replied. We didn't join the Medical Alliance to stay safe. We joined to save lives, Dr. Carter nodded. Jake's right. The Zephyrians have been our allies for 10 years. When Earth colonies had the red fever outbreak, they sent us their best scientists to help find a cure. Nurse Brooks spoke up from the back of the group. The medical staff will follow whatever decision you make, Commander. But I know what most of them would choose. Lisa looked around the room at her officers. She saw the same expression on every face. These people hadn't come to space to hide from danger. They had come to help others, no matter what the cost. All right, Lisa said finally. We go to Kepler, but we go carefully. Security teams will be on full alert. If we see any Skarn ships, we withdraw immediately. Jake felt relief wash over him. This was who they were. This was what Earth's medical ships did. They went where others couldn't or wouldn't go. They helped people who needed help, even when it was dangerous. The next few hours were busy. The medical teams prepared for a major disease outbreak. They loaded emergency supplies, checked their equipment, and reviewed everything they knew about Zephyrian biology. The bridge crew plotted the fastest course to Kepler and monitored communication channels for any signs of Skarn activity. As the sanctuary jumped to faster-than-light speed, Jake stood in the observation deck and watched the stars turn into long streaks of light. Somewhere ahead of them, people were dying from a disease they couldn't cure, but help was coming. Earth's healers were on their way. He thought about his daughter back on Earth, who had just started medical school. She often asked him why he spent so much time in space, so far from home. The answer was simple: because someone had to. Because when people were hurt and scared and didn't know where to turn, they needed to know that someone would come. Someone would help. Someone would care. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy. Not superior weapons or faster ships or advanced technology. Other species had those things too. Humanity's gift was simpler and more powerful. They cared about strangers. They would risk their own lives to save people they had never met and would never see again. The stars ahead held unknown dangers. But they also held people who needed help. And Jake Morrison, along with 2,000 other humans aboard the sanctuary, was ready to give it. 3 weeks after saving the Zephyrian colonies, the UN's sanctuary arrived at Haven Prime with 2 other Earth medical ships. The UN's Mercy and UNS Hope had answered the same call that brought them here. Haven Prime was supposed to be a safe place, a neutral world where no weapons were allowed and no armies could fight. Dr. Jake Morrison stood on the surface of Haven Prime, watching as thousands of medical tents spread across the green plains. The planet had rolling hills and blue skies that reminded him of Earth. It was beautiful and peaceful, which made it the perfect place for a field hospital. The refugee ships are arriving every few hours, said Commander Lisa Grant as she walked up beside him. Latest count shows over 50,000 people need medical care. Jake nodded, watching as hover stretchers carried wounded soldiers and sick civilians from the landing pads to the medical tents. The war between the Terran Federation and the Skarn Empire had been going on for 5 years now. Both sides sent their wounded here because Haven Prime was neutral ground. Here, human doctors treated Skarn soldiers, and Skarn medics helped human civilians. Any word from the Skarn medical team? Jake asked. Dr. Vex Morin's ship landed this morning. Lisa replied. His team is setting up their biosurgery unit in Sector 7. They've already started treating the severe plasma burns. Jake smiled. Working with alien doctors was always interesting. The Skarn had different ideas about medicine, but they were good at what they did. Dr. Morin had worked with human medical teams before. Despite the war between their governments, medical professionals respected each other. A young nurse ran up to them, breathing hard. Dr. Morrison, we need you in Trauma Bay 12. Multiple casualties from a transport crash. Jake grabbed his medical bag and followed the nurse through the maze of tents. The field hospital had grown quickly over the past few days. White medical tents stretched as far as he could see, with red cross symbols marking the human sections and green spiral symbols showing the Skarn areas. Inside Trauma Bay 12, Dr. Alex Carter was already working on a badly injured Skarn. Soldier, the alien's blue skin was covered in burns, and green blood pooled on the operating table. 2 human nurses and 1 Skarn medic worked together, passing instruments and monitoring vital signs. What happened? Jake asked as he scrubbed his hands. Transport ship lost power during landing, Alex said without looking up from his patient. This one got trapped under burning wreckage. 3rd-degree burns over 60% of his body. Jake moved to the second operating table where a young human woman was unconscious. Her leg was twisted at a wrong angle, and she had a deep cut on her forehead. He began examining her injuries while listening to the sounds around him. Medical equipment beeping, doctors calling for supplies, the soft voices of nurses comforting. Patients. This was what he loved most about his job. In the middle of a war zone, humans and aliens worked together to save lives. Politics didn't matter here. Species didn't matter. Only helping people mattered. 4 hours later, both patients were stable. Jake walked outside the trauma tent and stretched his tired muscles. The suns of Haven Prime were setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Around him, the field hospital continued its work. Medical personnel from both sides moved between tents, sharing knowledge and helping whoever needed it. Dr. Morrison, called a voice behind him. Jake turned to see Dr. Morin approaching. The Skarn doctor was tall and thin, with the blue skin and large black eyes of his species. He wore the green medical robes that marked him as a healer. Dr. Morin, how are your patients doing? Jake asked. Better, thanks to your team's help with the human blood chemistry, Moraine replied in his careful English. Your nurse Brooke showed my staff how to read human vital signs, very helpful. They walked together through the medical camp. Despite being from different species, they had become friends over the past few days. Medicine created bonds that went beyond politics or war. I must ask you something, Morin said quietly. My government has been sending unusual messages. Lately, they ask many questions about human medical capabilities. Jake frowned. What kind of questions? How many medical ships you have? How fast they travel? What kind of defenses they carry? Morin stopped walking and looked at Jake with his large black eyes. I do not think they plan to ask for medical help. A cold feeling settled in Jake's stomach. Are you saying they might attack medical ships? I hope not, Morin said. But War Commander Korthik has been giving speeches about human medical interference in the war. He says your doctors make enemy soldiers stronger by healing them. Jake couldn't believe what he was hearing. But that's what doctors do. We heal everyone. It's our job. I know this. You know this. But Korthik sees everything as a weapon, even kindness. Morin placed a hand on Jake's shoulder. Be careful, my friend. Dark thoughts are growing in my government. The next morning brought terrible news. A communication from Galactic Command arrived just as Jake was having breakfast. Commander Grant called all senior staff to the command tent immediately. "What's the emergency?" Jake asked as he joined the group around the communication console. Lisa's face was grim. "Intelligence reports indicate a large Skarn fleet is moving toward Haven Prime. At least 20 warships, including 3 battle cruisers." "That's impossible," said Dr. Carter. "Haven Prime is neutral territory. No military ships are allowed in this system." "The reports are confirmed," Lisa said. "The fleet should arrive in approximately 6 hours. Lieutenant Bell stepped forward. "Commander, we need to evacuate immediately. Get the patients on the ships and leave the system." "We have over 50,000 patients," Lisa replied. "Many of them can't be moved safely." "And where would we take them?" "The nearest hospital facility is 4 days away." Jake felt sick. He looked around the command tent at his fellow officers. These people had dedicated their lives to helping others. The idea that someone would attack a medical facility was unthinkable. "Maybe it's just a coincidence," he said. "Maybe they're not coming here." An hour later, Skarn fighters appeared in the sky above Haven Prime. They flew in formation over the medical camp, their engines screaming as they passed low over the white tents. Patients and medical staff looked up in fear and confusion. Dr. Morin found Jake in the main surgical tent. The Skarn doctor's face was pale, and his hands were shaking. "They refused my communications," Morin said. "My own people will not answer." "When I call them, what does that mean?" Jake asked. "It means they do not want to hear from a doctor," Morin replied. "They do not want to be reminded that we are healers, not warriors." The attack began at dawn. The first bombs fell on the landing pads where the medical ships were parked. The Un's Hope exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the morning sky. The Mercy took direct hits to its engines and crashed into the nearby hills. Inside the medical tents, chaos erupted. Patients screamed as the ground shook from explosions. Medical staff tried to move the wounded to safety, but there was nowhere to run. The Skarn fighters flew over the camp again and again, their weapons firing at anything that moved. Jake found himself in Trauma Bay 12, the same tent where he had worked the day before, but now it was full of new casualties. Human doctors and nurses lay bleeding on the tables they had used to help others. The young woman he had saved yesterday was dead, killed by shrapnel from a bomb that landed outside the tent. "Jake!" Alex Carter stumbled into the tent, blood running down his face. "They're targeting the medical symbols. They're shooting at anything with a red cross." Through the tent opening, Jake could see Skarn soldiers moving through the camp. They weren't just bombing from the air anymore. They had landed troops who were going tent to tent, killing doctors and patients alike. He watched in horror as a Skarn soldier raised his weapon toward a tent full of children. Before the soldier could fire, Dr. Morin stepped in front of him. The human doctor couldn't hear what the Skarn doctor said, but he saw Morin gesture toward the young patients behind him. The soldier shot Dr. Morin 3 times in the chest. The Skarn doctor fell to the ground, his green medical robes turning dark with blood. The soldier then turned his weapon on the children. Jake closed his eyes and tried to block out the sounds of screaming and gunfire. This couldn't be happening. Medical facilities were sacred. Everyone in the galaxy respected that. No one attacked doctors and nurses. No one killed people who were trying to heal others. But it was happening. And Jake Morrison, who had spent his entire life saving people, could only watch as everything he believed in burned around him. Dr. Jake Morrison sat in the small hospital room on Earth, staring at his hands. They were clean now, but he could still see the blood on them. 3 weeks had passed since Haven Prime, but the memories felt fresh every time he closed his eyes. The screaming, the explosions, the sight of children dying in medical tents. A knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. "Come in," he said quietly. Admiral Ben Hayes entered the room. The old military officer looked tired, his gray uniform wrinkled from long days dealing with the aftermath of the attack. Behind him walked Commander Lisa Grant, who had also survived. "The massacre. How are you feeling, Doctor?" the Admiral asked, taking a seat across from Jake. "I keep thinking about Dr. Morin," Jake replied. "He tried to save those children. His own people killed him for it." Lisa sat down next to Jake. Her left arm was in a sling from shrapnel wounds, but she was alive. Only 183 people had survived out of the 3,000 medical personnel who had been on Haven Prime. "The Galactic Council is calling for sanctions against the Skarn Empire," Admiral Hayes said. "But we all know that won't bring back the people we lost." Jake looked up at the Admiral. "What do you want from me?" "I want to know what you're thinking," Hayes replied. "You're one of the most respected doctors in the galaxy. Medical personnel from dozens of species look up to you. Your voice matters." "My voice?" Jake laughed bitterly. "I've spent 20 years telling people that medicine is about helping everyone. That we don't take sides, that we're above politics and war. Look where that got us." Lisa leaned forward. "Jake, you can't blame yourself." "For what happened?" "Can't I?" Jake stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the sprawling medical complex where he had trained as a young doctor. "We were naive, Lisa. We thought everyone would respect medical neutrality because we wanted them to. We thought being good and kind would protect us." Admiral Hayes cleared his throat. "Dr. Morrison, I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to think carefully before you answer." Jake turned back to face him. "What? Do you still believe in healing people?" "Of course I do." "Even Skarn people?" Jake was quiet for a long moment. "The Skarn doctors who worked with us at Haven Prime were good people. Dr. Morin died trying to protect children. So yes, I still believe in healing." "But what about the soldiers who killed him?" Hayes asked. "What about War Commander Korthek? Who gave the order to attack medical facilities?" Jake felt something cold settle in his chest. "That's different." "How?" "Because they chose to be killers instead of healers." Jake's voice was steady now. "They decided that medical personnel were enemies instead of helpers. They made their choice." Admiral Hayes nodded slowly. "What if I told you there was a way to make sure this never happens again?" "What do you mean?" "What if our medical ships could defend themselves? What if doctors and nurses could fight back when someone tries to kill them for helping people?" Lisa looked surprised. "Ben, are you talking about arming medical vessels?" "I'm talking about evolution," Hayes replied. "For too long we've sent our healers out into the galaxy defenseless. We told them to trust in the goodness of others. But Haven Prime showed us that not everyone is good." Jake sat back down. His mind was racing. Medical ships with weapons would violate the Galactic Medical Accords. "The Skarn already violated those accords when they attacked Haven Prime," Hayes said. "The question is, do we keep following rules that other people ignore, or do we adapt?" "What exactly are you proposing?" Jake asked. Admiral Hayes activated a holographic display. It showed the design of a medical ship, but this one was different. It had the familiar white hull and red cross symbols, but Jake could see weapon ports and defensive systems built into the design. "We call it the Reaper Protocol," Hayes said. "Medical ships that can heal and defend. Doctors who can save lives and protect the innocent. We're not talking about abandoning medicine. We're talking about making sure medical personnel can do their job safely." Jake studied the ship design. "This looks like a warship disguised as a medical vessel." "No," Hayes replied. "It's a medical vessel that can defend itself." "The difference matters," Lisa spoke up. "Jake, think about all the doctors and nurses who died at Haven Prime. Think about the patients who were killed in their beds. If we had been able to fight back, how many lives could we have saved?" Jake closed his eyes and saw Dr. Morin falling to the ground, his medical robes soaked with blood. He saw Nurse Katie Brooks trying to shield wounded soldiers with her own body before the Skarn troops shot her. He saw children crying for help that never came. Who would crew these ships? He asked. Volunteers, Has replied. Medical personnel who survived attacks like Haven. Prime, combat medics from the defense force. Anyone who understands that sometimes you have to fight to protect the people you're trying to heal. And you want me to lead this program? I want you to help design it, Hayes said. You understand medicine better than anyone. You know what doctors need to do their job. But now you also know what they need to stay alive. Jake was quiet for several minutes. Finally he spoke. I have conditions. What conditions? First, these ships must still be primarily medical vessels. The healing mission comes first, always. Agreed. Second, we only target military personnel who threaten medical facilities or personnel. We don't become the monsters we're fighting against. Agreed. Third, we still treat wounded enemies. We don't abandon our oath to heal, Hayes nodded. That's what will make this work, Doctor. We're not becoming killers. We're becoming protectors. Jake looked at Lisa. What do you think? I think about Katie Brooks every day, Lisa replied. She was the best nurse I ever worked with. She died trying to save people who couldn't defend themselves. If we can prevent that from happening again, we have to try. There's something else, Admiral Hayes said. We're not the only ones thinking this way. Medical personnel across human space are volunteering for combat training. Word is spreading about what happened at Haven Prime. People are angry. Angry enough to fight? Angry enough to make sure it never happens again. Jake walked back to the window and looked out at the medical complex. Tomorrow, hundreds of young people would graduate from medical school. They would take an oath to heal and help others. But now they would also need to learn how to protect themselves and their patients. When do we start? He asked. Admiral Hayes smiled. We already have. The first prototype ship is being built at the Luna shipyards. Combat training for medical personnel begins next week. We're calling the new units Reapers, those who decide between life and death. That's a dark name for healers, Lisa said. We're not just healers anymore, Jake replied. We're guardians. We choose who lives and who dies. We save the innocent and stop those who would harm them. He turned back to face Hayes and Lisa. I'll do it. But I want to be clear about something. We're not doing this for revenge. We're doing this so that no doctor ever has to watch their patients die helplessly again. Understood, Hayes said. But doctor, I need you to understand something too. Once we start down this path, there's no going back. The galaxy will never see human medical personnel the same way again. Jake thought about Dr. Morin, who had died trying to protect children. He thought about Katie Brooks, who had given her life for wounded soldiers. He thought about all the good people who had died at Haven Prime simply because they wanted to. Help others. Good, he said. Let them see us differently. Let them know that if you attack Earth's healers, you'll face Earth's reapers. Outside his window, the sun was setting over the medical complex. But Jake Morrison was no longer just thinking about healing. He was thinking about the ship designs he would help create, the weapon systems that would protect medical personnel, and the training that would turn doctors into warriors. The Skarn Empire had made a terrible mistake when they attacked Haven Prime. They had turned humanity's greatest strength into their greatest weapon. Soon, they would learn what happened when you threatened the people who had sworn to heal others. Soon, they would meet the Reapers. 6 months after Haven Prime, the USS Lifeline dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the Altair system. To anyone watching, it looked like a normal medical ship. White hull, red cross symbols, the gentle blue glow of medical scanners. But Dr. Jake Morrison knew better as he stood on the bridge of humanity's first Reaper vessel. Scanning the area now, reported Captain Luke Evans from the tactical station. Luke had been a Special Forces soldier before joining the Reaper program. His job was to teach doctors how to fight, but he was learning about medicine too. I'm reading 3 ships in distress and 4 pirate vessels closing in. Commander Lisa Grant sat in the captain's chair, her fingers drumming against the armrest. The Lifeline was her ship now, and she commanded a crew of 200 medical personnel, who had all learned to be something more than healers. "Time to intercept?" Lisa asked. 18 minutes at current speed, Luke replied. "Any response to our medical assistance broadcast?" Dr. Morrison asked. "The refugee ships are calling for help," said Communications Officer Amy Stone. "The pirates are ignoring us completely." Jake smiled grimly. That was exactly what they expected. Pirates saw medical ships as harmless, easy targets or, at best, something to ignore while they hunted real prey. The pirates flying toward those refugee ships had no idea what was about to happen to them. "All medical teams to stations," Lisa announced over the ship's communication system. "Prepare for incoming casualties." The announcement wasn't a lie. There would be casualties. The pirates just didn't know they would be the ones getting hurt. Dr. Nina Walsh looked up from her workstation in the medical bay. "Nanobots are ready," she said quietly. Nina had been a biochemist before Haven Prime. Now she created tiny medical robots that could heal wounds, or with a simple command change, cause very specific kinds of damage to enemy soldiers. "Remember the rules," Jake said to the medical team around him. "We save anyone who surrenders. We help wounded civilians. But anyone who threatens innocent people..." He didn't finish the sentence. Everyone knew what happened to people who threatened the innocent. The Lifeline moved toward the refugee ships at medical cruise speed. Not too fast, not too slow. Just another hospital ship responding to a distress call. The pirate vessels ignored them completely, focusing on the 3 cargo ships that were trying to escape. "Pirates are demanding the refugee ships stop," Amy reported. "They're threatening to destroy them if they don't surrender." "How many people on those ships?" Lisa asked. "Sensors show approximately 800 civilians," Luke answered, "including about 200 children." Jake felt the familiar cold anger settle in his chest. Pirates threatening children. Some things never changed. These criminals probably thought they were safe because they were far from any military patrol. They had no idea that Earth's medical ships were no longer defenseless. "Range to pirate vessels?" Lisa asked. 15,000 kilometers and closing. "Are we recording this encounter?" "Yes, Commander," Amy replied. "Full documentation as required by Reaper protocol." That was important. Everything the Reapers did had to be recorded and justified. They weren't becoming mindless killers. They were protectors who followed strict rules about who they could attack and why. "Pirate vessel is firing on the lead refugee ship," Luke reported. "Minor damage to their engines. That's it," Lisa said. "They just threatened civilians in our presence. Target the pirate ships." "All pirate vessels targeted," Luke confirmed. Jake activated the ship's internal communication system. "This is Dr. Morrison. We are about to engage hostile forces who are threatening civilian lives. Remember your training. Remember why we're here. And remember Haven Prime." The mention of Haven Prime always had the same effect. The ship became very quiet. Everyone remembered the doctors and nurses who had died trying to help others. Everyone remembered why they had become Reapers. "Open a channel to the pirate ships," Lisa ordered. "Channel open." "Attention pirate vessels," Lisa said in a calm, professional voice. "This is the medical ship USS Lifeline. You are attacking civilian refugees under our protection. Cease your attack immediately and withdraw from this system." The response came quickly, a rough voice filled with laughter. "Medical ship, get lost, healers. This doesn't concern you. Go find some sick people to bandage." "They refuse to withdraw," Amy reported. "Then they've made their choice," Lisa said. "Luke, you may fire when ready." The Lifeline's hidden weapons came online. Missile tubes opened along what looked like medical supply bays. Energy weapons powered up behind panels that seemed to contain life support equipment. In 30 seconds, the harmless-looking hospital ship became a deadly predator. "Firing," Luke announced. The first pirate ship exploded before its crew realized they were under attack. The second ship tried to turn and fight, but the Lifeline's weapons were designed by people who understood both engineering and anatomy. They knew exactly where to hit to disable a ship's crew without destroying the vessel itself. The third pirate ship attempted to escape, but Jake had other plans. "Nina, deploy the nanobots." Dr. Walsh pressed a series of buttons on her console. Tiny medical robots, invisible to most scanners, spread out from the Lifeline toward the fleeing pirate ship. The nanobots were designed to treat radiation poisoning and repair cellular damage, but Nina had made a small adjustment to their programming. "Nanobots have infiltrated the pirate ship's life support system," Nina reported. "Their crew should be unconscious in about 3 minutes. "Unconscious, not dead?" Lisa asked. "Unconscious," Nina confirmed. "We can wake them up easily when we're ready to question them." The fourth pirate ship had stopped moving completely. Its captain was trying to surrender, but Jake wasn't sure they deserved mercy. "Captain of the fourth pirate vessel," Lisa spoke into the communication channel. "You were attacking civilian refugees. You threatened children. Give me one reason why we shouldn't destroy your ship right now. Please," came the panicked response. "We surrender. We'll do anything you want. Just don't kill us." "Drop your weapons and prepare to be boarded," Lisa ordered. "Any attempt to resist and you'll join your friends." Jake watched as Luke coordinated the boarding operation. Reaper security teams moved efficiently through the pirate ship, securing prisoners and evidence. They were no longer just doctors and nurses. They were warriors who happened to know medicine. "Medical teams, prepare to receive patients," Jake announced. Some of the pirates had been injured in the brief fight, and despite everything they had done, the Reapers would still treat their wounds. That was the difference between the good guys and the bad guys. 2 hours later, the refugee ships were safe and the pirates were in custody. The wounded pirates had been treated and healed, though they would be turned over to authorities for trial. The unconscious crew from the third ship had been revived, and were now sitting in detention cells. Jake stood in the Lifeline's medical bay, looking at the pirate captain who was lying on one of the treatment tables. The man had a broken arm and several cuts, but he would live. "Why did you help me?" the pirate asked. "I was going to kill those people on the refugee ships." "Because that's what doctors do," Jake replied as he finished bandaging the man's arm. "We heal people, even bad people like you. But you also killed my crew." "We stopped you from hurting innocent people," Jake corrected. "Your crew chose to fight instead of surrender." "We gave them a chance to walk away." The pirate looked confused. "I don't understand you people." Jake finished his work and stepped back. "You attacked civilians. You threatened children. But when you were wounded, we still fixed your injuries. We're not monsters like you. We're protectors." Later, Jake stood on the bridge as the Lifeline prepared to leave the Altair system. The refugee ships were continuing to their destination. Safe and grateful, the pirates were being transported to a Federation prison station. "How do you feel about our first mission?" Lisa asked. Jake thought about the question. 6 months ago, he would have been horrified by what they had just done. They had killed people, even if those people were criminals. But he also thought about the 800 civilians who were now safe, including 200 children who would see their families again. "I feel like we did our job," he said finally. "We protected innocent people and stopped bad people from hurting them. Any regrets?" Jake looked at the stars outside the bridge windows. Somewhere out there, other pirates and criminals were threatening innocent people. Somewhere out there, other medical ships might be in danger. "My only regret is that we can't be everywhere at once," he said. News of the Altair incident spread quickly through the galaxy. A medical ship had destroyed 4 pirate vessels in 12 minutes. Medical personnel had fought like trained soldiers while still treating wounded enemies with compassion. The galaxy was starting to understand that Earth's healers had become something new, something dangerous. Dr. Jake Morrison smiled as he read the reports coming in from other systems. Pirates were avoiding areas where Earth medical ships operated. Criminal organizations were warning their members about the killer doctors from Earth. Even some military commanders were asking their governments about the new human medical vessels. Reapers were becoming exactly what they needed to be. Healers who could fight. Protectors who could kill when necessary. Angels of mercy who carried the weapons of war. And we. 2 years after the first Reaper mission, the entire human medical fleet gathered at the edge of the Skarn system. 50 ships hung in the darkness of space, each one looking like a peaceful hospital vessel. But Dr. Jake Morrison knew the truth. As he stood on the bridge of the USS Sanctuary, now rebuilt and upgraded as the flagship of the Reaper fleet. Intelligence confirms that War Commander Korthek is on Skarn Prime, reported Captain Luke Evans. He's in the main military fortress with the remaining human prisoners from Haven Prime. Jake's hands tightened into fists. After 2 years of hunting, they had finally found the monster who ordered the attack on the medical facility. The man who had broken the most sacred law in the galaxy was hiding behind the strongest defenses the Skarn Empire could build. Commander Lisa Grant stood beside him, studying the tactical display. The Skarn homeworld was heavily defended. Orbital weapons platforms, patrol fleets, and ground-based missile systems surrounded the planet like a metal shell. "How many prisoners are we talking about?" Jake asked. 47 humans are still alive, Lisa replied. Doctors, nurses, and medical technicians who were captured during the Haven Prime massacre. They've been held in prison camps for over 2 years. And Korthek? He's in the main fortress with his command staff. Our sources say he rarely leaves the building. He knows we're hunting him, Jake nodded. The Reapers had been very busy over the past 2 years. They had found and captured dozens of Skarn officers who had participated in the Haven Prime attack. Some had been taken during rescue missions. Others had been hunted down on remote worlds. All of them were now in Galactic Tribunal custody, waiting for trial. But Korthek was the prize they really wanted. He had given the order to attack medical personnel. He had broken the trust that held galactic civilization together. And he had done it all because he thought human doctors made his enemies too strong. "What's the plan?" asked Dr. Nina Walsh from her station. Over the past 2 years, Nina had become the Reaper's expert on non-lethal weapons. Her nanobots could disable entire ship crews without killing them, which was useful when they needed to capture specific targets. "We go in fast and hard," Lisa explained. "Half the fleet creates a distraction by attacking the orbital defenses. The other half lands. Ground teams near the fortress and the prison camps." "Rules of engagement?" Jake asked. "Same as always. Protect civilians. Capture war criminals if possible. Eliminate anyone who threatens medical personnel or prisoners." Dr. Alex Carter looked up from the medical station where he was preparing emergency surgical equipment. "What about Skarn civilians on the planet?" "We treat any wounded civilians we encounter," Jake said firmly. "We're not here to hurt innocent people. We're here for justice." The word justice felt strange in Jake's mouth. 2 years ago, he would have talked about healing and helping. Now he talked about justice and punishment. Haven Prime had changed all of them, but they were still doctors at heart. They still saved lives. They just chose more carefully which lives to save. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison." Jake spoke into the fleet communication system. He had been promoted after the success of the Reaper program, but he still thought of himself as a doctor first. "Today we finish what began at Haven Prime. Today we show the galaxy that attacking healers comes with a price." The Reaper fleet moved toward Skarn primed like a swarm of metal angels. The lead ships opened fire on the orbital defense platforms, their medical ship disguises falling away as hidden weapons revealed themselves. The Skarn defenders fought back, but they were confused and frightened. These ships looked like harmless hospitals, but they fought like warships. Jake watched the battle from the Sanctuary's bridge as his ship headed for the planet's surface. Around him, his crew worked with the calm efficiency of people who had done this many times before. They were no longer the scared survivors of Haven Prime. They were the Reapers, and they had come to collect what was owed. Landing zone secured, reported Luke as their ship touched down outside the main fortress. Skarn ground forces are retreating. They seem more interested in running than fighting. Can you blame them? Lisa asked. Would you want to fight people who look like doctors but shoot like soldiers? Jake smiled grimly as he picked up his medical bag and his sidearm. Both tools were important for what came next. The medical bag would help him treat wounded prisoners. The weapon would help him deal with anyone who tried to stop him. The assault on the fortress was swift and efficient. Reaper ground teams moved through the building like they were conducting medical rounds, checking each room methodically. They found Skarn soldiers hiding in closets and storage areas, too terrified to fight the humans who had once been known only for their kindness. Prison level secured, came a voice over Jake's communication device. We found them, sir. The human prisoners are alive. Jake felt relief wash over him. After 2 years, they were finally bringing their people home. He made his way through the fortress corridors, past unconscious Skarn soldiers who had been disabled by Nina's nanobots. The Reapers were good at their job now. They could clear a building without killing anyone if they chose to. The prison level was a dark, cold place that smelled of fear and despair. Jake found the human prisoners in cells that were too small and too dirty for people who had dedicated their lives to healing others. But they were alive, and that was what mattered. Dr. Morrison? Asked a weak voice from one of the cells. Jake recognized Dr. Sarah Kim, a surgeon who had been working at Haven Prime when the attack began. She was thin and pale, but her eyes still held the spark of intelligence that made her a good doctor. It's me, Sarah, Jake said as he opened her cell door. We've come to take you home. All of us, all of you. Every human medical professional we can find. We don't leave our people behind. As Jake helped Sarah walk toward the exit, she looked at his uniform and equipment. You're wearing a weapon, she said. Yes, you look different. All of you look different. Jake paused in the corridor. A lot has changed since Haven Prime, Sarah. We're still doctors, but we're also protectors now. Did you kill people to get here? Jake thought about the question. We gave everyone a chance to surrender. Some of them took it. Others chose to fight. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Good. The surprise in her voice was clear. 2 years ago, Dr. Sarah Kim would never have approved of violence, even against enemies. But 2 years in a Skarn prison had taught her something about the real world. Sometimes good people had to fight to protect other good people, Jake found. War Commander Korthek in his command center, surrounded by the bodies of his officers who had chosen to fight rather than surrender. The Skarn commander was wounded but alive, sitting against a wall and bleeding from cuts on his arms and chest. So, Korthek said as Jake approached, the human healers had become killers. We became what you made us, Jake replied, opening his medical bag. But we're still healers first. He began treating Korthek's wounds, cleaning the cuts and stopping the bleeding. The Skarn commander watched in confusion as the human who had just destroyed his fortress worked to save his life. Why? Are you helping me? Korthek asked. Because that's what doctors do, Jake said, echoing the words he had spoken to the pirate captain 2 years ago. We heal people, even monsters like you, but you'll still execute me. No, Jake said as he finished bandaging the commanders. Wounds. We'll turn you over to the Galactic Tribunal. They'll decide your fate. But you'll live long enough to face trial for what you did at Haven Prime. Korthik looked at Jake with his large black eyes. You could have killed me. Why didn't you? Because we're not like you, Jake replied. We don't murder helpless people. We don't attack those who are trying to heal others. We're better than that. Jake stood up and activated his communication device. This is Admiral Morrison. Target secured. All human prisoners recovered. Mission complete. 3 months later, Jake stood in the observation gallery of the Galactic Tribunal as War Commander Korthik received his sentence. Guilty on all counts. Life imprisonment for war crimes and violations of medical neutrality. The tribunal judges, representing dozens of different species, were unanimous in their decision. After the trial, Jake walked outside into the sunlight of the tribunal world. Commander Lisa Grant was waiting for him on the steps of the courthouse. How do you feel? She asked. Jake thought about the question. He thought about Dr. Moran, who had died protecting children. He thought about Nurse Katie Brooks, who had given her life for wounded soldiers. He thought about all the good people who had died at Haven Prime. I feel like justice was served, he said finally. And the Reapers? What happens to us now? Jake looked up at the sky, where he could see ships from the Reaper fleet waiting in orbit. In the 2 years since Haven Prime, they had prevented dozens of attacks on medical facilities. Pirates avoided systems where Earth medical ships operated. Military commanders thought twice before threatening hospital vessels. We keep doing what we're doing, Jake said. We heal the innocent and protect those who can't protect themselves. We show the galaxy that attacking healers comes with a price, even if that makes us feared instead of loved. Jake thought about the children they had saved, the wounded soldiers they had treated, the civilians they had protected. Better to be feared by the wick